Om Shambho Shankara Sadashiva Shambho Shankara Sadashiva Shambho Shankara Sadashiva Shambho Shankara Sadashiva Sarveshwaro Mam Pahi Prabhu Sarveshwara Mam Pahi Prabhu Pahi Prabhu Mam Pahi Vibhu Pahi Prabhu Mam Pahi Vibhu Lingodbhavara Lingeshwara Lingodbhavara Lingeshwara Jagadishwara Mam Pahi Prabhu Jagadishwara Mam Pahi Prabhu Pahi Prabhu Mam Pahi Vibhu Pahi Prabhu Mam Pahi Vibhu Shambho Shankara Sadashiva Shambho Shankara Sadashiva Sarveshwara Mam Pahi Prabhu Pahi Prabhu Mam Pahi Vibhu Lingodbhavara Lingeshwara Jagadishwara Mam Pahi Prabhu Pahi Prabhu Mam Pahi Vibhu Shambho Shankara Sadashiva Har 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 Haraya Namo Har 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 Haraya Namo Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo Shiva 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 Shivaya Namo Haraya Namo Shivaya Namo Haraya Namo Shivaya Namo Shivaya Namo Haraya Namo Shivaya Namo Haraya Namo Shambho Shankara Sadashiva Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om friends, welcome to Yuva Chaitanya. We are when the whole atmosphere is reverberated by the chants of Om Namah Shivaya everywhere, in all the true seekers' mind, we are learning our lessons on Nama Japa, Japa Yoga. And it is the most appropriate time for us to initiate, if we are not done already, the practice of chanting the name of the Lord. Could be anything. On this occasion, it is the name of the Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is known for his auspiciousness, for his all-pervasive consciousness, and that is Shiva in meditation. And Shiva in Tandava is the Shiva, the creator and the destroyer. So here on Shivratri, it is only the Shiva in meditation that we seek and invoke. And on such an auspicious eve of Shivratri, on this eve of Shivratri, which is to follow, we are continuing our lessons in Japa Yoga. We are on the topic Pitfalls in Japa. We have covered first 3 paras. And the third para was saying that we should put our best in us, best at all levels of our personality. So, emotion to start with emotion, with devotion for the Lord, discrimination of the intellect between the difference between Shiva and Shava is caused by only the presence or absence of Shiva. When the Shiva is absent, their body becomes Shava, the corpse. So see the great difference, that whose presence vitalizes our body, mind, and that which enables us to perceive the world, then gives freedom to desire for what they perceive, and then act for the same, or perceive the world and see the light that illumines the world. Then and there. So that's the difference of vision. And we are trying towards this goal through Japa. Japa will make the Japist qualified for meditation. And it is the meditation which, in the scope of this article or at present, it is only up to meditation. And then the one who meditates effortlessly and has the capacity to bring his mind exclusively at the line of thinking, what is meditation? Exclusively means at the exclusion of all the dissimilar thoughts. Then that is the immediate goal for us. And when thus he becomes very much acquainted and is able to do effortlessly his meditation on a chosen deity, then he becomes qualified for contemplative effort, which is the last. But that is not discussed in this particular topic. Now here, starting with Japa, growing in meditation, and completing our evolution in contemplative effort is the total scope. Now in this scope, we are only at the lowest level of Japa Yoga. To getting ourselves acquainted with what is Japa Yoga and what are the pitfalls in Japa Yoga, etc. But that paves the way for the further evolution. Therefore, we have to be very concerned and concentrated on this early portions. Once we get the entry into it, then thereafter, our teacher will guide us. That will be no problem. It's about determination and entry into the path is what is most important. So this is all the best in us as listed out by Swamiji so promptly: emotion, discrimination, sensitiveness, will, logic, reason, sympathy, love, and lastly faith, and pour them all into the act of concentrating upon the mental chanting of the sacred mantra. So from the loud chanting to mental chanting, and mental chanting is given an accent, important. Merely loud chanting and turning up beat does not constitute Japa Yoga, but it is the beginning, and every novice has to do it with the beginning to avoid the pitfall to start with. So that is where we were last time in this third para of this topic. Now, is there anything to be discussed up to third para before we proceed to the fourth? Or if you are marked for something, some statement, then we can continue discussion. Otherwise,
Sir, this last line, which is visualize steadily within the naked chamber of bosom, it is Antakarana or
yes.
Antakarana?
Bosom means as such immediately it is the mental zone, and entire Antakaran we have only divided as mind and intellect. Right? So that is a division for our understanding, analytical understanding. But otherwise we have only two upadhis. One is body, another is mind. And the mind is full of different functions. Mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankar, these are all different functions. And when we are with ourselves and with the mind not functioning in all those four areas, then the mind or the bosom is empty. So the mind without thoughts running out is the mind empty, available for getting itself filled up with the main pith and substance of this, and that is the consciousness. And we have known so far through our discussions that a mind free from thought in the waking state is nothing but the pure consciousness. So to attain this state consciously with the technique of japa is the idea here. So that the last sentence is very important statement. A which is visualized steadily within. This steadily is important. One has to get steadied in this state where he can visualize the Lord of his heart through the Japa Yoga, because he has poured his best into it. And when the mind is hushed up of all the otherwise thoughts, then even the thought of the japa should also end having accomplished the function. When the function is accomplished of ending all the otherwise thoughts, then this thought also should end. In that case, the bosom becomes empty or naked. And in this naked mind or bosom, the Lord can enter and occupy. The seat is now vacated. The seeker is earnestly, sincerely, he is invoking the Lord through Nama Japa. And Nama Japa in its effect, it's trying to drive away all the dissimilar thoughts related to the world of OET, and thus when this function is accomplished, then we will find that our antakarana or inner equipment or the mind or the bosom becomes naked. It is not covered by any thoughts. The thought is the only covering. Thought veils the reality. So this when the thoughts are unveiled or they are driven out with the help of one thought, strong thought of Japa, then it becomes naked or empty. And the promise of the Lord is empty thyself. What is important is empty your mind. And he promises that he will fill within us. He will occupy our entire within. So empty thyself and I shall fill thee is the one of the promise in Bible, so which we can recall here. And it has got this meaning. And promise is indicating that here through this statement. The last clause, which is visualized steadily within the naked chamber of the bosom. To the extent we are driving away all the dissimilar thoughts, to that extent we become concerned, recognize, and finally visualize. And when we become steady in that vision of the reality indicated by the Nama, then that is the, you can say, the achievement in Japa Yoga, basically. So the ultimate expectation of Japa Yoga is described here in this last statement. It's a big statement. So pour the best in us and perform at the feet of the Lord. That shows our position also and our attitude also at the feet of the Lord. And then that feet of the Lord should be visualized. So to visualize the feet of the Lord is to visualize the knowledge, pure knowledge. And we can at best become pure knowledge when our inner equipment, the mind, becomes free from the otherwise thought. So then the visualization is possible, the vision of the Lord is possible, and it is this vision of the Lord that is indicated here as the immediate goal to be achieved through Japa Yoga. So naked means empty. If it is a container, it's an emptying the container. The container should be clean, container should be steady, and lastly, container should be empty. When that is there, then we will find that it is not a question of feeling afresh. Then already something which is there will be noticed by us, recognized by us. So already something is there, is the light. Earlier light was only illuminating the thoughts of the world and thoughts related to various topics. Now that it is emptied, it will only illumine nothing. There is no object to illumine, but then that will make me steady there and I will be able to be aware of the presence of consciousness. So my attention, which was so far preoccupied with the otherwise thoughts, is now withdrawn. Now I am with myself. Now my attention will then naturally go to what is existent there, what is not driven out. And that is the light of consciousness. So when my attention goes there and steadied there, then I will realize that, oh, this consciousness am I. So the process is beautifully described in words. The word picture is very difficult. In spirituality, to describe it is very difficult, because the more we go within, the more the stuff becomes subtler And to describe the subtle in the language of the word is, of course, a really difficult task. Because the ultimate nature of what we are recognizing now is silence. And silence, if it is to be described in words, it is a great task. So it is coming down to the grosser level and describing about it. Then we are missing the essence. So therefore, the Swamiji leaves us in that naked bosom, so that when we are with ourselves, with nothing other than ourselves, or away from the otherwise thoughts, then only the success is in view. So that is the that was the idea. What are your ideas now? Is it all right?
It is the same stage with the Vedantic meditation, what we say. But we also reach to, by negation and all that, we reach to that stage. So it is the same stage, we can say, in the
This
state of meditation.
no, it is not same. When you
Then
say
it is a glimpse
Vedanta,
of reality, we get it over here.
it's the preliminaries. These are the preliminaries to reach there. Then secondly, meditation is not a word for that Vedantic. And if you have said Vedantic meditation, so we will understand it should be contemplation.
Contemplation,
So,
yes.
so that is the last exercise. So we are now available to think positively that I am the truth. And earlier attempt in Japa is to recognize the reality, the consciousness. Study in that state of reality, become the reality. So the jiva can become the ultimate as pure knowledge only. Up to this is the jiva's journey. So when he becomes pure knowledge, then the wonder of wonder is our self is not the object of knowledge. Self cannot become the object of knowledge. We have reached the pure knowledge, but pure knowledge cannot objectify the self. The self is aware full of the knowledge contains, but pure knowledge is not able to be conscious of the self. So this is a great thing, and to have the positive experience that I am the truth, Am Brahmasmi, is the guidance given by the Vedanta through Mahavakya. So there the Jiva finds his identity with the Shiva, the Brahman. There Shiva represents Brahman. As in the Vedic period, they were calling Indra, Mitra, Varuna, Vayu, Agni, etc. as various gods and deities as the reality. In the later period, it was considered as Brahman, and further later period of the Upanishad, it was considered as Shiva, as Brahman. So thus we have various levels to be ascended, and the immediate prerequisite is to empty ourselves of all the otherwise thoughts. That was the.
Yes.
So this paragraph is a very, very important paragraph. Swamiji has one more or two such solid stuff. There you cannot just read off. You have to read, you have to pause, you have to think over and understand what is trying to convey. So this last line in this paragraph is really last clause we can say, because it's a big sentence. And that last clause is very subtle for us to reflect over. Japa generally enchants the unwary practitioner into the jungle of the unproductive thought wanderings. If the student is not diligent enough to detect it and arrest the flow of thought, it is possible that Japa ends him in a dark ditch of frustration and stupor. This is just the beginning of another important point. This is only introduction to that. And the generally the results of the japa at the end of the japa at one sitting is dark ditch of frustration and stupor. These are the ill effects in the beginning till the japis becomes conversant with the practice. This is what happens in the beginning. And so Swamiji is only introducing this point in this para. He is not explained further. Later following paras will of course make it very clear. But here it is indicated. Unwary practitioner. One who is not alert enough, not the another term that we use is alert is better, and before that vigilant. So the vigilant, if the mind, if the seeker is not vigilant and alert in his exercise of japa yoga, then the mind by itself will get fatigued and it will end in this stupor and these two aspects, the prostration and the stupor. And it will also manifest in his anger and his fatigue, he is tired. So Swamiji, how beautifully he handles the general psychology of the practitioner in the early beginning. He handles it. He says, never mind. It is there in all cases, even in the worldly matters also. In the beginning, right from learning the driving onwards, in your own street, how you are exhausted just by driving your next turn around. When the road turns, then how you exert yourself. Right from that onwards, Swamiji gives the examples from our day-to-day life and says that such an exhaustion is natural in the beginning. Later on, you will be used to it and you will get over it. You will develop the expertise over that. So that this para is only beginning of a very important topic being handled, how to get over the negativities as an immediate result of japa yoga and the techniques for handling that. So when the mind is infested with these negative aspects of frustration and stupor, how to handle that mind, how to get over those emotions and bring back the seeker to on the track, proper track, so that he can proceed further, is being explained in the following paragraphs. It's a very beautiful reading, and reading the psychology of the student, of the spiritual seeker, etc. Swamiji is very expert, and that is the secret of his success, to go universal, to go global, and make every listener interested in Vedanta. His main secret is he knows the psychology of the listener and he is very much watching the listener, his face, whether his talk is creating confusion, whether he is comfortable in what he listens or he finds it difficult to understand. All that, reading its psychology and attending to that requirements is the secret of his success in his talks. So here also he is handling very delicately the psychological condition of stupor and frustration, which are natural in the beginning. So he doesn't make it a fuss about it, but he gives us the examples from our day-to-day life and says that everywhere it happens like this in the beginning, never mind. And examples he gives us makes us smile, with mischief of his examples and the literary beauty of also in the description. So we'll now see if there is anything important. So first of all, the unwavering practitioner is the target here. If he is unwary, he is not aware, cautious, the vigilant and aware, the alert. These are all qualities of the mind. If he is not there, then it is likely there is nothing very wonderful or wondrous about it. It is natural that he will feel fatigue. Because he is exhausting energy more than required. And this is something common in all the starting of the endeavors. In the beginning of the endeavor, this is something natural. And he points out the way out also. He is not just describing this condition, but he guides us for the way out. Now, here, he, uh, what is the important concern for you, according to you? Thought wandering is the one word important for us to appreciate. Jungles of unproductive thought wanderings. Unless you think over and reflect on it, you won't appreciate the beauty of literature that he is fully utilizing here. It should remind you of some example we have used. He is describing here, particularly this clause, is that unwary practitioner, Japa generally enchants the unwary practitioner into the jungles of unproductive thought wanderings, packed with lot of thought, few words, and lot of information is packed in it. It can be unpacked only through reflection. It's not ordinarily accessible. You may like it, you may like English, you may like the literary style, but that is nothing. It is only the entrance. And if you really reflect over this, so then you will say unwary. I hear this word used, unwary practitioner. So this is the beginning. And it is enchanting for him. It's not that he knows the danger and he is crossing the danger. It's not that. It enchants him. Just makes the mind by japa a little quieter, and he gets some chances to go into the different jungles, wanderings of the otherwise thoughts. Now, this is in the beginning, it is possible. Swamiji is not decrying it, Swamiji is not supporting it, but Swamiji is guiding us the way out from it. Why it occurs, he gives the logic for that also, and then it becomes comfortable for us to get the clear guidance and practice accordingly. So here, my question was, we have discussed some illustration which somehow matches here when Swamiji describes that it enchants the unwary practitioner into the jungle of unproductive thought wandering. Jungle of unproductive.
Chanting the name of Rama, then you go to the Ramaswamy, where that kind of illustration.
Okay, so that is the actual description of the one who is practicing japa. Okay. Now, example. I am asking for the example we have discussed. A basic, which will give us the basic idea. The example. Now, that example is of the practitioner himself. Usually, what happens? But then, when he says jungles of thought wanderings, that should be, you must be able to imagine situation there. There are a lot of trees, jungles, and thought wanderings. We have to equate these two. Jungles of thought wanderings itself should give some picture to you. Now, what is the way out? One, here it is said that the person enchants and lost his way into the jungles of wandering. Now, what is supposed to do is not explained. But this itself, with the illustration of some example which we have discussed earlier, will be enough for us to take to a deeper level of thinking.
One example we have seen is a student studying, and another example we have seen is lighthouse example.
Achha. Now, student studying is a really close example, but as Shobha has indicated, another case of a Japis, where with the help of Rama he goes elsewhere. Similarly, in the name of studies for exam, the child's mind goes everywhere, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, on the ground, and thus the wandering of the mind in different areas. They are both like a case study. One is a case study of a student who is preparing for exam. Another is a case study of a spiritual seeker who is trying with the Japa Yoga. Okay, we are given the example not of the seeker or man, but as seen in the natural surroundings, which Swamiji mentions here, as the jungles of wandering, the jungle of trees and wandering. And you have to compare this with your mind, which is enchanted to go into the different thought waves, different lanes of that thought waves instead of a given line of a japa.
Then another example of wandering in jungle that reminds us of that Ram, Sita and Lakshman. When Ram goes behind that deer because he wanted that for Sita, and he loses his way and all.
Still we are missing. Still we are missing something. We are concerned with the wandering mind. Wandering mind is to be compared with clause number 2. Monkey mind. The monkey we have discussed as jumping from one branch of the tree to the another branch of the tree and never complete the sentence.
Never comes back on to the ground.
Never coming down to the roots of the tree. Root of the tree is very important. That is going to the very core of our personality. Instead of going to the core, he is going to the branch of the tree, which is the external extension of that. Now, from branch of one tree to another branch of another tree. Likewise, they never come down unless there is something covetable for on the ground for his eating, etc. He will never come down. Otherwise, they will go on the tree and they will spoil all the fruits only. They will bite some fruits and throw it away. Partly enjoy, partly throw away. So likewise, they are spoiling the whole the production of the fruits, etc. And then that is wandering is going on, and discovering something to eat. So when one is over, he goes to another branch of another tree. So this is the monkey business, and mind is always compared to this monkey business going on. Only the branches of the tree, that is thoughts. Thoughts are the various branches. And what is the root of the branches of thoughts?
Vasanas.
Huh?
Vasanas.
What is that?
Vasanas, Guruji.
No.
Or desires?
That's a negative approach. We know that vasanas effect into desires, desires effect into agitations. That is a natural root.
When there is light of consciousness, then the thoughts sprout, vasanas sprout or thoughts are there.
Yes, so root is consciousness. The root of the tree is consciousness. In the presence of consciousness, the other contents of the root, that is the plumule, what you call it, plumule, or they sprout out of from the seed, which goes upward into the expansion of the tree. So consciousness is the source. In that presence of consciousness, the seed of vasanas grows out into a tree. Seed of vasanas branching out into different desires and ending in lot of agitations at every thought is the negative expansion. And the mind, which is only hopping from one branch of tree to another branch of tree, etc., is a monkey business, which is demonstrating to us. Nature demonstrates to us the negative aspects and the positive aspects of life. So how our mind behaves, we may not be able to see our mind because we are very much concerned with it. We have attachment for it, love for it, etc. But we can watch the monkey. Even if monkey is put in cage, and cage is big enough for him to move about, etc., jump about, he will never be in his own seat of steady or steadily occupied. He will always be jumping from, even within the cage, he will jump from top to bottom, bottom to top, and outside surroundings, etc. But he will never keep quiet. That is the nature of our mind at present. So to make the mind quiet, then make the mind peaceful, then make the mind alert for that which is not immediately accessible. Unless mind becomes emptied, it's not accessible. So this all is not monkey business. This is the human deliberate business. We have deliberately decided to see our roots, our source. And for that, this is the only entry. Japa Yoga is only an entry into that mind, making the mind first quiet, peaceful, steady, and then recognize the reality behind that mind. That is consciousness. So the root of the tree is consciousness. And what grows into the tree is vasana seed. So that in the presence of consciousness, when seed of vasanas are given the aid of water, etc., surrounding, then they grow out to manifest the desires, agitations, and the desire prompted actions. So this is some natural cycle set already in all living beings. And now man, when he is self-conscious, he will decide whether this is desirable condition or undesirable. If the mind is really giving him a big bother, then there is a way out to quieten the mind, to make the mind peaceful, and then direct it towards its source. The source of mind is consciousness, not vasanas. The mind itself is, like a garland. It is an outcome of two things. So one is, on one side is the tamoguna pradhana maya or vasanas, and on other side it is sattva guna pradhana maya, which is a fit medium for manifestation of consciousness. So now this is the condition. When these two come together, from this a strange thing like delusory nothing, Swamiji describes it as mind, comes. So mind is neither vasanas nor consciousness, but an outcome of that when put together. So now from the mind, we can be enchanted under the influence of vasanas to different jungles of wandering, thought wandering, or with the help of our scriptural teachings and the teacher, we can divert our way out. Instead of reaching the vasanas, it is reaching Om. So in our chart, if you can see the Om and V, so it can take us to V also, and it can take us to Om also. So generally, we come or succumb to the Vasana forces, and therefore we go away enchanted into the jungles of wandering thoughts. But as per the guidance here, when we proceed on our Japa Yoga, then it will sidetrack the vasanas, and we can proceed along toward the consciousness. So this idea is suggested here, and the monkey's illustration is the best example in nature. That creature is created is to remind the human mind that, see, you are nowhere different at present, but you can become different with a deliberate, sincere effort, as per the scriptural guidance. So this, see, now this clause itself is giving us so much a thought for discussion and understanding. Now, if you can further contribute, you are welcome. So that we have seen the clause, first starting only. Japa generally enchants the unwary practitioner. Unwary is the one who is not alert. Besavad is the unwary. And this is the practitioner into the jungle of unproductive thought wandering. If he is conscious, attentive, then like a watchman at the gate, not dozing or sleeping, but is aware, alert, vigilant, is a vigilant person, then he can discriminate between a regular member of the society and a stranger. If the stranger is taking entry, he should halt it there and then and there. And then the problem is resolved immediately. The person will not then immediately take advantage, disadvantage of that. But if the watchman is dozing there, then the strange thought will gain the entry, will occupy the areas which are not meant for him and misuse them. So this idea is beautifully expressed. Now, indicative of the wanderings of in the jungles of tree, thought wandering. See how Swamiji has quickly compared the jungles, wandering in the jungle, where there he says jungles of thought. It's thought wandering, not you are physically wandering in the jungle. The thought itself is a jungle. It is a jungle because it is the thoughts of different objects, emotions, etc. Therefore, it's a jungle of thoughts. And wandering in that is done by the mind of an unwary practitioner. So he is giving us hints. It is not the practical tips for japa. This is basically to understand why and wherefore of the japa yoga. And if that we understand it, we will ourselves improve on the practice of japa. Anything else on this?
Because when we are supposed to chant the name, our other body activities are stopped. So mind is not busy in any activity. Therefore, the mind has some free time, we can say. Only chanting name is very easy for the mind, and it goes away in other different thought currents. And
only if we are not,
yeah.
He is going away wandering only if it is not vigilant and alert.
Yes.
If it is vigilant and alert, immediately we can stop there and chant our given mantra. Yes, next.
This is a kind of daydreaming, what we say. There is some work at hand, but person sits tight and only thinks about different things and is doing nothing. And this is not physically. So this is mentally we are doing. So it is all the more possible because there is nothing to do with hands or legs like that.
And this kind of daydreaming is very helpless helplessly going on, where we are conscious that we are going on this thought, but we are not able to halt by ourselves. And this helpless going along with the currents of the different thoughts is daydreaming. So in the dreaming, we are totally helpless. In the daydreaming, we are conscious of it, but we are not doing anything. We are allowing our mind to get along with the flow of thought. This is the most unproductive and so to say inactive course of the mind, where nothing productive outcome can come up. That was one good point. The daydreaming you are comparing with all these wanderings. So it is a helpless uh, observance of the seeker, that his mind is wandering away. Here the word used is enchanting. Enchanting is something where he is so much deluded, so much tempted, that he doesn't know that his mind is pulling him away from the main topic and is going into the wanderings of the jungle. See the literary beauty Swamiji has physically brought to serve the spiritual cause. He has used all his literal skills and beauty in making the spiritual matter more accessible to the student. So even when he agrees with it, then the student can really progress. It is not just receiving the instruction and practicing it. He must be convinced about it, why and wherefore of it. That is Swamiji's direct approach to the student. So why and wherefore of the japa we are saying in the name of pitfalls. What are the possibilities of going away from the main practice of japa? Swamiji is describing, then consoling us that not to mind it, we have a way out for that, and bring it out, suggest the possible ways out. And thus, when we find that our problems we appreciate, then we will also appreciate the solutions to those problems. That is a most logical way of presentation. And so this is only the introduction. The fourth para was the introduction, and we have done our best to the best possible way within the available time. And now we are proceeding to the fifth para. Shall we proceed? Okay, so now we go to the fifth para. This warning is to be seriously considered. Many of the japists we see in India, why? We can even say all over the world in all creeds, have to a large extent rendered themselves perverts. And strangely enough, we shall find that the ugliness of their psychological beauty is directly proportional to the amount of japa they have practiced. This is a comparison with some mathematical constant. So what is proportional? Directly proportional and inversely proportional. So in this way, if they have done the amount of japa they have done, to that extent they have become perverts. Pervert is a vikruta person who is not behaving normally. So now the short para, but the path by which the person becomes pervert is now being further introduced. So first, it enchants the practitioner to wander into the jungles of thoughts, as earlier para says, and now it gives a serious concern, because the finally the wrong practice or malpractice is discouraged here, because it makes the man the pervert. The perverted person is the one whose mind goes in a very crooked direction. So that his behavior is also not really good for interacting with others. So that is the perverted person, and the path that leads to this perversion is being warned here. So what the path is already described in the earlier paragraph. And here it is a warning that if you follow the what is going on at present, then you will become a pervert. And whatever amount of japa that you have done, to that extent you will be proportionately more pervert. So this is the not appreciating the purpose for which the japa yoga is meant, and just carrying on the practice and allowing the mind to enchant away into the jungle of wandering thoughts. Now see 4 and 5 is connected. This is a logical step-by-step thought development. First you are told what is the wrong thought, and then those who are following that, they will become pervert. So instead of, so ordinarily you will find a person without any spiritual practice will be a normal person and will have no problem to deal with in the vyavahara. But this fellow, because supposed to be a spiritual seeker, doing practice, I have seen one of the persons carrying with his hand the japa mala even while walking on the road. And it's the mala is dangling in his hand and he is muttering some word. So here he is suggesting that it is directly proportional to the number of malas that you have turned that you have become pervert. So this is exactly the what we can say the demerits of wrong practices. The right practice will definitely lead us to the evolutionary progress. So here this is 4 and 5 are connected. Now anything else you have in mind? Amount of japa is number of malas, we can say. Creed or different castes and creed are called like pantha. So there are different panthas, there are different creeds. In all of them, the japa is recommended, and in all of them, we have such perverts, and the reason for that is also given here.
Basically, we are trying to train our mind to get concentrated. But here it is happening exactly opposite. So the result is also exactly opposite.
Right.
Power of mind, instead of that, mind is getting forward.
So the concentration of the mind is otherwise known as purity of the mind.
Yes.
And divergence of the mind into very many thoughts and wanderings, etc., is the impurity. Immediately, in terms of thoughts, we can say purity and impurity of the mind. So the japa is a practice for self-purification on one side, and otherwise for the concentration. So concentration is otherwise named for self-purification. So here the mind which is holding consistently the divine thought, the spiritual thought, or the mantra, which is a packed magazine of power in the form of thought or name of the Lord, is actually how it can be utilized for our spiritual progress. Before talking to that positively, first, this particularly fault on the part of the practitioner or weakness on the part of practitioner is being taken up for treatment. Swamiji is not just pointing out the negativities, but he is giving us the treatment. And even before giving treatment, he will make you appreciate the need for such a treatment. What are the effects of continuing the present malpractice, and what is the advantage of following a right practice? So this is a beautiful presentation, and instead of saying how to chant and what to chant, etc., in details, he has listed out earlier. But what is important is pitfalls. Where we are falling, there we need a guidance, a prompt guidance. And you will find these topic in this sense is very, very instructive and guiding. So now we proceed to the sixth one. To begin with, this seemingly simple yoga should not be over practiced. First rule, start with a mala of japa a day. Slowly raise the number of malas at each sitting. You may start by increasing the number of malas at first on convenient holiday only. See the practical tips. And when you are convinced of your mental capacity to sustain your inspired attention for the required period of time, then alone should you take to the long sitting at japa. Now, step-by-step guidance. The first thing is over practice is discouraged. Just take one mala is sufficient, 108 times, and that is effectively 100 times. So this one mala is enough to start with, and unless we are very comfortable with that and mind is along with the japa, not wandering, etc., there is no sense in increasing the number. What is important is the quality, not the quantity. Quantity is given at a measured doses, one mala a day. So this is a starting dose, and do not increase it. If you want to increase, take some holiday and experiment it, whether you can mentally have the stamina to increase the time or period of long sitting japa, etc. So this is most practical tips that are provided here for number of malas to be practiced. So this is here Swamiji is giving a very practical cautious warning. So what is important? Instead of long sitting at japa at the end of the para, it is said. So he says, then alone should you take to the long sitting of japa. So it is not encouraged immediately. It is warned that first check yourself, your capacity, your stamina. Otherwise, start with a mana a day. Every day is enough. Then what is important in this? If we are restricting to a quantity of japa, now we have to look into the quality aspect of it. So what is the quality aspect of japa? Here is discouraging the quantity aspect. He says it's not important how many malas you turn out. Don't go in for that. Instead, one mala a day is enough to start with. And then try on holiday whether you can, just to check your stamina. Suppose if you take two malas a day, whether it is at a time, whether it is physically, mentally you are capable of that, standing the strain. So this is how he is cautioning us on the number of malas, that is the quantity of japa. First aspect. Then now what is suggested thereby? Then the quality, we have seen that control of the mind, quality, quantity and direction. Quantity is immediately discouraged to start with. Don't go on scoring how many malas you are chanting. So one mala a day is okay. So quantity is controlled. Now what do we expect in terms of quality? Which is suggested here, not indicated directly. But now when he says don't increase the quantity, it means then what is to be done? With one mala a day, what will be benefit? What is the advantage by continuing with one mala a day only? So what is expected out of
Trying
this?
to hold attention over there and controlling the thoughts that they should be related to the japa only.
Yes.
And increasing the gap between the two japa.
Now the gap,
Two names.
etc. The next one. Gap is not to be talked about early. It's
Means
a very
reducing the speed. Increasing the gap means reducing the speed.
okay, that is okay. And the otherwise aspect is we are trying to impress impression is called samskar. We are giving a positive impression about our true nature, that we are potentially God. The name of the God we are chanting, we are talking about our own nature. We are reaching our own nature. So this is chanting the name of the Lord is actually seeking our own true self, our own true nature of the self. Now this is, therefore this samskar is what is expected in terms of quality. A positive samskar about our true nature is being made by whatever is the one mala of japa every day, regularly, sincerely, consistently. When we are doing only one mala, then what we gain in benefit is a positive samskar about our true nature. What we are not is quite evident, we are experiencing. But what we are is being suggested here, and a conducive samskar will be possible even with one mala also, provided it is done with all attention, etc. So here the quality of thoughts is being suggested. When we are controlling the quantity of thoughts as one mala, then we must gain something on other direction. And the other two points are the quality and the direction. So direction, when we are taking the name of the Lord, it means the direction is already changed. Otherwise, our mind is going in the direction of objects, emotions, and thoughts. Now, this is the reverse direction of Om, the Lord. So, direction taken care of. But there, if we are sincere, concerned, concentrated on whatever little we are chanting, then that creates a samskar. Samskar, if we have, if you recall our early discussions, then it is cutting another channel of thought. At present, our vasanas have already cut deeper channels, and whatever the situation, its perception will flow down through the already cut or the ruts of the mind and flow through that vasana channels. So we will have a typical understanding according to our vasanas. Now this japa is creating a digging another channel on the mental surface, and consistent regular japa will create a deeper samskar on our mind. And when it becomes deeper than the existing samskar of the vasanas, then the purpose is served. So now anything that is perceived will flow down through the channel digged by the japa. The japa is of the Lord, and he will have the understanding all the names and forms are nothing but the Lord himself in different names and forms. Now this kind of samskar by the japa yoga can lead us to that higher understanding. How do you like this? Think over, you can discuss further. So he is warning us not to be much concerned about increasing the quantity of thoughts or quantity of names or malas. Continue with one mala only. If you want to extend, try it on the holiday so it doesn't disturb your daily routine. Try on the holiday and check your stamina, whether you can have a longer sitting. And if it is okay, then continue. So he's not discouraging all through, but check up your stamina. He's not overdoing it. Over exercise is discouraged. Now instead, still we should benefit whatever we are doing with that. So now the benefit aspect will continue till the last para. We must gain something out of it. So that something is cutting a positive channel, and a repetition of that will make it deeper. When it becomes deeper than the vasana channels already dug, then our responses will be always positive. Whatever we see, we will see only the Lord in that particular form. Now that is the effective understanding and experiencing the outer world. Do you have anything, any other idea? We have just seen the otherwise possibility. Here it is then Swamiji is only discouraging immediately increasing number of malas. Continue with one mala. Check up your stamina on the free day. And if it is okay, then we can continue. And earlier we have seen it that it can go up to 20 malas in the morning, 20 malas in the evening. So that is a complete Japa Yoga, that full-fledged sadhana. But that's the target given for that full-fledged. Here in Vedanta, we are using Japa Yoga as only an auxiliary aid for contemplative effort. So the mind must be already concentrated and pure. This pure mind is fit for meditation, and a meditative mind is fit for contemplative effort. So thus we have been given the progressive steps suggested. Therefore now for Japa Yoga, here is the progressive step is that we improve in the quality of Japa, and that will affect our mind in terms of new channels, cut, and then the flow. This is the technique of farmer already. When the farmer gets a flow of water in a particular channel, and when he wants to divert it to different areas of the field, then he puts a bund on one side and he opens it on other side so the water can be diverted. And Dhaneshwar Maharaj has put this example beautifully, saying that the spiritual seeker should be like a water. Whatever he is being directed by the situation, he should go along, get along with that situation and do his best. So as the gardener redirects the water to the areas which need water, similarly, the person should allow himself to be guided by the situation, indicated by the situation, and go. No question of refusing, resisting, or showing a sense of disharmony with the surrounding. So as far as possible, in harmony with the surrounding, go by the situation, then do your best, whatever you think right in that. So this is allowing a positive aspect of it is initiated here. So that was the idea here, some spark. Shall we move further? So now the seventh para. Another difficulty that comes to japists, and this is common to 90% of them, is an irresistible attack of sleep while doing japa and a shamelessly evident tendency to express bad temper soon after the japa sadhana. These are the two important observations for the initial student of Japa Yoga. The seeker should not get annoyed at himself on these symptoms. He should learn to patiently fight these tendencies and win over them. So, to patiently fight and win over them, Swamiji in Kindle Life, with the topic at war with the mind, he gives the example of a mother treating a child who is playing under the hot sun, and it's a time for the child to rest with the mom, and it's not coming home. In the outside on the ground, it is playing in the hot sun. Now mother knows that if she allows him to play like this under the hot sun, then he will fall sick. The child will go sick, and therefore she is urging. It's not immediately scolding the child and saying you are doing something and that will cause you sickness and all that. Instead of that, she is lovingly urging the child And there are different tactics with the mother, how to handle her own child, because she knows the tendency of her own child. Therefore, there are different, some 8, 9 tactics suggested by Swamiji, really most practical tips, and one can follow that topic at war with mind. So the motherly handling of the mind as though my own child. My mind is my own child and I need to handle it properly in a motherly love. So this is, and lastly, the mother will give a little more freedom to play, provided the child comes with her in the for the rest time, and in the evening she will take the child to the park where she can play up to, the child can play up to the late evening till it is dark. So the child then start thinking, today I'm not comfortable because mommy was after me, not allowing me to play in the hot sun. But if I allow, if I accept or listen to mother and sleep with her, then in the evening she will give me the opportunity to play more. So a little more freedom is given, which is she and she apply. Terms and conditions apply. Mother says, now you must stay with me and have a rest with me. Well, you must sleep with me now, so that in the evening I will take you to the park. There you can play to the heart's content. This kind of little freedom is also possibly offered to the mind, and mind comes back. So at present, we want mind to be with us when we are chanting. And this exercise, the child is out in the play, the mind is out. Therefore, it must be the Swamiji's instruction here is in that sense very important to note. So here it is said here the seeker should not get annoyed at himself on these symptoms. He should learn to patiently fight these tendencies and win over them. To patiently fight. Don't immediately resist the child, scold the child, and so that the child will react to it and continue playing further without listening. So patiently pursuing the child with different tactics. Some 8 to 9 tactics are suggested in that topic in Kindle Life. Broadly, the division of topics is like this. That mainly there are 9 chapters. First 3 chapters are dedicated to knowledge. They are on pure Vedanta. First 3 chapters. Second 3 chapters is on devotion, where the Japa is introduced, etc. And the last topic is at war with the mind, where this Swamiji gives practical tips how to bring back the wandering mind. And the last 3 chapters are dedicated to the art of right action. So the art of living or the art of right action. So these knowledge, devotion, and action. Beautifully, they are the actually rearrangement of his talks elsewhere. He has given talks and they have been compiled in a very systematic manner, in a logical manner. What's the knowledge, why and wherefore of it, then the application, devotion, and then the actual in life, day-to-day life, how we can interact better. So in that, this topic at war with mind is very instructive concerning our present portion. So that is about the 7th para. Sleep and the attack of sleep and anger, temper. These are the 2 main difficulties, problems, or the weak points of the Japis, and how to deal with them is being beautifully explained. We have a time limit. We'll continue the 8th para. Swamiji gives immediately the diagnosis of these 2 defects. Sleep comes because of mind in Japa is a mind at rest. train the mind not to sleep in the salubrious climate within. It is natural for the children to sleep in a running car, and the poor thing gain no thrill of the trip. This is a beautiful example of this. Now, when we are going on a tour or travel, we are packing everything, and with a family we are going, we have a child with us. Now we are enjoying through windows of our vehicle and all that, the surrounding greenery and the different scenes, etc. But the child in our lap, facing the wind that is coming, it feels sleepy. So it misses, because it's not capable. That mind is not capable of enjoying the surrounding. A little breeze or wind will make it feel sleepy, and it will go to sleep. So it is indicative that a mind in early stage is naturally like a child. Therefore, the earlier treatment of the mother and the child, again here it will be helpful. So don't wake up the child which is feeling sleep. When it is wake up, try to make the child interested in the surrounding. Whenever it is awake, whenever it is asleep, you can't just awaken the child and then make him see that. So this is one of the practical steps. So the attention towards the surrounding, etc., is lost. So there is no thrill for the child immediately. That is one. Now the solution to the next one is a temper. 9th para says, bad temper comes because of two reasons: suppression of tendencies and a consequent fatigue. The former starts with the Japist's own annoyance at his own mind wandering here and there during Japa. The latter is caused by exhaustion, because to hold the mind in balance at a given line of thought is a great strain to the beginner, and therefore his mind gets fatigued. I'll continue because we need, in the tempo of this discussion, it's very important. Swamiji gives a lot of examples to see that this condition of our mind we will not be able to visualize unless some illustrations are given. A new driver at the wheel knows not how to relax. Thus, he unnecessarily exhausts himself before he has driven round the next corner of his own street, next corner. But now with the vehicle, when he's learning, while taking a turn, he is afraid the vehicle that is coming from the front, and then he has to maintain his lane on left side, keep left and all. So all this, he gets exhausted in the beginning. But later on, he masters over the skill and all that. Similarly, another example, a new swimmer will be fatiguing himself within a few yards. And the last one, a new housewife gets tired looking after her firstborn. Later on, the very same woman easily manages her half a dozen children along with her late cousin's 4 little kids, and yet discovers for herself plenty of spare time and mental ease for her afternoon chats with the neighbor. So this is the best example. I like this example. We can find it, observe it anywhere. But there's a special attention. The others are also coming to help for the first delivery and the first carrying, etc. But later on, she manages. How? That is the skill, and that is where we have to patiently try to handle our wandering mind, monkey business. So appealing, now giving a little freedom, now allowing this and that. So with these examples, now we will stop. Please go through this again and have your own ideas on this through independent thinking. And then we will meet next time again for this. So we'll read the pledge and Shanti part. We stand as one family, bound to each other with love and respect. We serve as an army, courageous and disciplined, ever ready to fight against all low tendencies and false values within and without us. We live honestly the noble life of sacrifice and service, producing more than what we consume and giving more than what we take. We seek the Lord's grace to keep us on the path of virtue, courage, and wisdom. May thy grace and blessings flow through us to the world around us. We believe that the service of our country is the service of the Lord of Lords, and devotion to the people is the devotion to the Supreme Self. We know our responsibilities, give us the ability and courage to fulfill them. Om Tat Sat. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Mritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om, everybody.
Hari Om.